Do you want to know the most precious thing in Baldurs Gate 3? Oh yeah, that level 6 spell slot. That once per day representation of the maximum power you can deploy in a battle. But you gotta make sure you choose wisely.
What? How is disintegrating 2 innocent villagers not choosing wisely?
Hello, my fellow adventurers, and especially greetings to those of you who are also so magically inclined. Today I want to talk to you about what, at least in my opinion, the 5 strongest level 6 spells are that are most worthy of being your choice for that coveted slot. And yes, technically, you can cast a level 6 more than once per day if you happen to have the Spellcrux Amulet that can give you one back, or if you have your Arcane Battery from the few staffs that have it, you can cast one for 3, but generally speaking, it is this one-time, beautiful display of the greatest array of arcane might you can produce in Baldurs Gate 3. Oh god, I wish we could go up to level 9 spells at level 20, though that would be so literally game-breaking. How would you even program something like Wish? Anyway, by rights then, when you bust out this 6 spell slot, you want to make sure you are using it on something that merits that honor. Now, I will admit that a lot of the time, the best level 6 spell is a upcasted to level 6 version of a lower level spell. But for the sake of this discussion, I'm of course going to ignore that side of things and focus on the very specifically level 6 spells, the spells you can only cast once you reach level 11 and beyond. Now, the thing is with the level 6 spell slot is using it for damage, in my opinion, isn't always, and in fact most times, the way to go. Because yeah, one big pop of damage, okay, cool, but then it's gone. You want something that's lasting, that's impactful, that can win the fight by itself, that actually gives you some real oomph. Now don't get me wrong, there will be a couple of damage dealing selections on this list, but I think ironically something like harm here is going to do you more harm than good to use. Because yes, you reduce the target's maximum hit points, you do a load of damage, but is 14d6 level 6 spell slot worthy when you could just be blasting out some level 5s? It's one and done. Yes, if it's the last little push to finish off a boss, but it's not like it's exceptionally more damage than a lot of other ways to deal large amounts of damage that don't use a 6 spell slot. So with that in mind then, what are we actually going to look at? I mean, just quick honorable shout out to something like straight up heal, just you are fine now. That in an emergency situation can obviously come in very handy, and actually something like Hero's Feast is quite fun to play around with, even if it's just a fun flavor choice, as busting out this, well, literal feast is quite a cool thing to do. And then you can grab all of your food and get a load of camp supplies, and you can do that just sort of, well, once every time you have the spell slot, and essentially never have to worry about being able to rest, and that's definitely a lot better than using your one time per character per game cast of Divine Intervention to do something like Golden Generosity. So, you know, that's there, but at the same time you're not summoning a basket of food in the middle of combat, and yes, it does give the HP increase and the wisdom save advantage, which can come in clutch, but I think it is more of a niche choice. So let's actually go into my choices. So at 5th place then, we have Disintegrate. Yes, I realize after my talk about how damage isn't really always the best use case, this one kind of gets the pass because it is just so much damage. And the reason it is, outside of 10d6, a potential, 10 to 60 is always good, but it's that plus 40. Even if you roll minimum in all of the dice, you're still going to do 50 damage, which is a really reliable big blast if you desperately need it. Obviously assuming that it hits, but you can raise spell accuracy really hard in this game. But it's not just this near guaranteed guaranteed death laser that literally turns people into ash, it's the way that it can be synergized in a couple ways. The prime example is something like Sorcerer. Because we can twin spell, that works on Disintegrate as a single target spell, which means you can essentially get 2 level 6 blasts of it out of one slot. And given how much sheer damage it does, yeah, a lot of the time that can be very valuable, especially if there's multiple targets. And as you can see, you can really reliably actually get it to hit. And right there, we've just kind of opened a fight by literally deleting 2 of the enemies. And no matter what you say, deleting an enemy is quite the potent effect to get out of a spell. Just a one and done, they are out of here, and we are good to move on. And there's definitely a lot to be said about that. I mean, you know Disintegrate, especially if you're a D&D player. It is a very feared spell, especially against PC characters, because of the, you hit 0 and you're just ash. That's kind of hard to recover from. And anecdotally, I have a Total Spore Druid in the longest running campaign I was ever part of, and, well, somewhat fittingly to Baldurs Gate, I got hit by a Disintegrate from an Illithid and ended up on, if I recall correctly, 3 health, and that was one of the scariest moments ever. But ultimately, yeah, Disintegrate is here as it is just the most straightforward, reliable, things need to die spell that the 6-slot offers, at the very least in Baldurs Gate. You can just really hammer people with it, and that is always endlessly satisfying, especially, again, when you are playing on a Sorcerer to take advantage of that twin. I love it. Next up, then, is Eyebite, a level 6 necromancy spell that gives you unprecedented control options for the battlefield, ongoing for 10 turns. Yes, it's concentration. Yes, have someone using this probably have Warcaster, someone with proficiency, and that way it won't just be immediately ruined, but this kind of plays into the value I was talking about when it comes to this 6th slot. You want it to be as impactful for as long as possible, and having 10 turns of this is exceptional. But what does it actually do? Outside of your eyes become black corridors walled in teeth. Does anyone else read that and imagine it in their eyes? And it's just, I mean, the picture of it is very accurate, it really is that, Anyway, look, Eyebite. You have 3 options to choose from. You can put someone to sleep, and this is a much, much more potent sleep than sleep, or you can strike fear into them, or you can give them disadvantage on, well, anything they try and do, which is also exceptionally potent. So, for a practical example then, here we are. We're going to start with sleep. Once we get a little bit closer to actually affect them, that definitely does help, and we will go for the twin spell, and here we are. We shall go for this guy, and then, wonderful, that is 2 enemies essentially just out the fight until we have to deal with them. And then we will use Sickened on the Steel Watcher so that he has disadvantage on his attacks, and in 1 turn we have essentially eliminated 2 enemies and made the most threatening one half as effective. Like, that is so good, and then we still have 9 more turns of being able to play with it, and now he misses because of the disadvantage, so that's really, really neat. Yes, of course, enemies can save them, which is really annoying, because he has disadvantage on saving against it, but that's how these things go sometimes. No spell is completely infallible, but it is definitely, out of all the sort of control-y CC utility options, Eyebite is the one that's going to give you the most bang for your buck, and that's something to always worth remembering. So we get back around to me, and this time we will go for a panic on Mr. Kepso here, so now he is terrified, and then we will quicken and reapply Sickened to our Steel Watcher, so he's not doing so hot, and then once again let them rain. Oh no, not your disadvantaged attacks! Annoyingly, yes, the AI does like to wake up sleeping targets, but that's still kind of wasting his entire turn to do that, which is just sort of another method of CC, and it means a little bit of damage does get applied. Now, obviously, I don't have Warcaster, so our concentration ended up getting broken, but you kind of see the gist here. Just every single turn, you can cause 3 flavors of mayhem in a big fight, and if I had my other companions here and wasn't just skipping Shadowheart's turn, etc., it just gives you a lot of healthy options when you want to be a controlling type caster on every caster that can learn this. Next up, then, we are going to talk this utterly magnificent gem, Globe of Invulnerability, giving you and everyone in this quite large area immunity to damage for 3 turns. I feel like I don't need to actually go into too much detail as to why that is ludicrous. It is the ultimate in timeout technology, because they just can't do anything. And yes, the enemies remain invulnerable too when they come in here with you, but what you're gaining out of this is this simple, nothing can go wrong for 3 turns. And even if all of the enemies run up and start queuing up in a lovely circle around you while you're in here, you control when it drops. You get to decide when we are going to go back on the offensive. And a lot of ranged characters, as you can see, will just randomly shoot at you even though you're invulnerable, which means I can be in here and shoot back out at them and actually deal damage while having to suffer no chance of any counter hits coming my way. It really is a spell that you can, abuse to your advantage to play with in a way that works. So this is what I'm talking about. Melee characters will huddle in front of you when you're in your globe, but I am going to be next up in the turn order. And if I was with my other allies, your other 3 characters, well, now the globe has dropped, and every single one of these guys is just stood here waiting to be AoE down because they've huddled up as forced to by the globe. So we can teleport out and then bust out something like the Wall of Fire, and now everybody is being roasted. It really forces your enemies to essentially act like morons and position horribly for 3 turns while you have no chance of anything bad happening to you, and then you can plan this swooping I just win now off the back of it. This is still on Tactician. They just can't work out how to deal with this. So here we are, we're beaten up, bruised, Shadowheart's on half health, I'm missing health, I am maimed, there's bleeding going on. This is a really bad situation to be in, except not really, because we just drop the Globe of Invulnerability, and now we are completely fine for 3 whole turns. And what can you do in those 3 turns? Well, start using your bonus actions to heal, let the enemies waste all of their turns, and then when you get to your healer, if you have one in the order, well, you can just use it to heal. Oh, I really thought he would technically count as out of it there. So when we get back around to Shadowheart, like so, after a load of turns of no one being able to do anything, we can then just use this pause to mass heal up everyone in the party and essentially just reset, because healing isn't turned off, obviously, as it's just a damage thing. Wonderful. And as a final little bonus tip, just because damage is immune doesn't mean that, well, non-damage effects are negated. You can Thunder Wave, you can Telekinesis on the person not concentrating on the globe, throw and knock enemies back out of it that have come in it with you, and then kill them with everyone else's subsequent turns. You can play a real, like, in-out, kill it all about game, and it gives you just super unprecedented control of the battlefield for 3 turns, because you dictate who is getting damaged when and where, and that is potent in this kind of setup. Finally then, we come to the first spell that the Sorcerer can't learn on this list, and I promise I've not been biased towards Sorcerer, these just happen to be the choices, and Sorcerer can learn 4 out of 5 of them, as you'll see. In any case, to the Clerics for this one, or at least Cleric can learn it with Planar Ally, the strongest summoner of an extra dude that there is. You've got a Jin, you've got a Deva, and you've got a Cambion. Cambions are quite quite good, but I think they are outclassed by the latter two. Let's start with the Jin then, as we bring him out. Now remember, he will stick around until your next long rest, so you can't ask for much better than that for a long-lasting, multiple fight impacting use of a 6-slot spell. As long as, heal him up, keep him alive, don't let him die in the fight. He can do a big, powerful repositional Thunder Wave. He's got a meaty normal attack on him. He can do some restraining gales, which work out really well too. He can teleport around the place, and then he can do poison damage, make everyone drunk, and attract them towards him. He has a lot of utility, and he really wreaks havoc on the battlefield. If we teleport him over to here, and then do a little bit of thunder waving, start things off, upset everybody. Like, look at the knockback distance on that, by the way. Like, look how far he just went. Oh, that is so glorious. Obviously, he's in combat by himself here, so no matter how powerful a summon is, he's not going to last too long, but he does have 161 health, which is quite ridiculous in of itself. Let's go over to here, and then we will drunken inhale on these guys, and he's got the awesome Jin voice lines too, which are really nice to hear. But yeah, he is an incredibly potent summon that gives you a lot of utilities, a lot of options, and is a mightily worthy use of that 6 spell slot. Actually, thinking about it, he might well survive this current round of enemies, which is even more impressive. But I do think that the Deva is even stronger still. So, let's bring him out, and he's not quite as tanky, but he's got a lot more power in him, a much stronger attack. He's got the concussive, he's got this Raffle Smite, which is really potent, especially if you get the Frighten, and he can actually revive your allies, which is ridiculously good too. And his mobility is absolutely excellent, given that he can fly about the place. He is a fantastically useful summon. If we bust out this Raffle Smite and wha-bomb, that is a lot of damage to get out of your extra just... well, he's here now for the rest of the day. So I would definitely recommend investing in Planar Ally, trying them out, and just having what amounts to almost like a character strength level summon. Not quite, but it's getting there just with you. A 4.5 party strength is much better than just 4, if that makes sense, and these guys are exactly that, and I don't think there is, especially if it does come from a Cleric, a better use of that 6 spell slot. He's also just very, very naturally tanky, despite being absolutely dogpiled by all of the guards like this. He's only lost like 40 health, which is just kinda ludicrous. Though, I definitely think he's probably had a better day than this one in his life. Okay, well, he's back up, and let's see if we can at least get one kill. Boom! Yeah! Alright, burn. Lovely. So yeah, Planar Ally, best summon in the game, and a fantastic use of your 6 spell slot. Finally then, we arrive at number 1, and it is Chain Lightning. Yes, it's the other damage choice, but I think it's one that is worthy of being here. 10d8 is, decent, 10 to 80 damage, but of course it's the chain part of the lightning. It will affect 3 other enemies. So the potential to do 320 damage with 1 cast, yeah, that is a certainly good use of your level 6 spell slot, especially on a fight with multiple threatening enemies. But, as with most things on a Sorcerer, it gets even better, because despite it being technically an AoE spell, because you strike a single target to begin with, you can still twin spell it. Which means you can have 2 sets of this, just go out, start bouncing around, and do a ludicrous amount of damage. And that is so good. But even beyond all of it just being, a really solid spell, we have something even more potent going on with this. Let's blast these out. God! damn. It's just so much damage. Oh, but the real reason that this takes the champion top spot, outside of just how good it actually is in terms of raw output, is when you use it in combination with a level 2 Tempest Cleric and can apply Destructive Wrath to it to max out the damage roll. It is probably the best overall lightning spell to do that with, and it just results in 4 enemies now just are taking 80 damage. Or, you know, if you twin spell it, even more than that. And of course, the last major reason it's here is the, quite frankly, too strong interaction with the wet condition. You just drop a Create Water, and now you're doing double lightning damage to every enemy you hit Create Water with, which turns this already monstrous ability into something even beyond that. So, really, it's just the best. Silly. So if I use my free spell once more to get another cast of it going off, and there we go. That just did, by the way, 106 damage to that Steel Watcher. Like, 106 damage because of all the extras that are actually set up on this character and its build right now. Like, I have only cast it a couple times and everyone is dead except the Steel Watcher. Like, and I'm not built for this. This isn't even the Chain Lightning build, which I have done and is on the channel. It's just, it's so good. It is so good. And with all of the extra ways you can cast it, having an extra copy from the staff, being able to refresh your spell slots, you just find yourself absolutely mopping up. Like, I mean, honestly, that's just it already done. Wiped the floor with this entire group thanks to just clicking Chain Lightning. Need I sell it any more to you? My word. Alright then, guys, that is my choice for the 5 level 6 spells that I think are most worthy of the slot, worthy to learn, and worthy of your time if you care about getting the most potent output for that said slot as possible. For now then, let me know if you would like some more spell discussions. There's lots more I want to say about a lot of them because goddamn I love the spells in D&D and therefore in Baldurs Gate 3. Like you've enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more. Consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below. And until we meet again, a goodbye. Oh, I'm not a good person.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.